Hi everyone, welcome to this channel, but now this chapter will be in English. I think you are going to try to understand what are we saying because this is the first time in my case, I don't know, Sergio.
Yeah, it is.
That we do this kind of podcast in English. That will be, I think, a great challenge, but I think I have the ability and also Sergio because he's an expert in this discipline. So let's start with this. Sergio, thanks for being here in this episode.
Yes, I'm very, very happy, Itza, for actually having and making this a reality. Like Jesus said this morning, this is also my first time talking in English in this podcast form. And I'm very happy. My name is Sergio Gonzalez. And today Itza is with me. And so, Itza.
Today we're going to be talking about our experience learning English. We have different points that we're going to talk about. But first, I think that the first point will be, how did we learn English at school? How was our education? Would you like to share first, or can I share first my...
Please, lead the way.
Okay, thank you. Well, I learned English 15 years, 2 hours daily. I had never a professor absent, and every day we used to work with workbooks, students' books, but mainly books that were focused on reading. These were the Pearson books with different exercises about reading comprehension, grammar, vocabulary, with keywords. Well, I think that was how I learned English. Also, my parents bought the Disney World of English. It was very funny, very interesting to learn English with the Disney sponsor us, please, with the Disney characters. I studied since kindergarten. I had my first year there. I think I finished kindergarten as an A2. I don't want to show off, but I think that was what happened with me. And then I went to middle school and high school. I mean, first elementary, middle school, high school. And at university, I didn't have English classes. I started for being a lawyer.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was my education.
Yeah, you mentioned a very interesting point that in addition to everything that you had to learn English, adding Disney, that's the word, adding Disney makes something more engaging. Because one of the things that could make people learn any language is that you need to have something that is engaging, something that can attract you to learn it. If it's no engagement, then really there's no motivation to learn. In my case, I had an opportunity and privilege of studying in the U.S. Many years, from elementary school to high school, and I finished my bachelor's degree in Michigan back in 2010. And then from there, with that experience alone, then I was able to then speak it the way I do at this point.
Really?
Yeah.
So not your whole life, but your whole education was at the United States.
Yes. I guess the most important part of the education. Middle school was the only time that I was not in the U.S. I was actually in Mexico, and I was very proud to be here too because both languages are equally important. You can't just have one to prevail over the other. You have to have both because I don't know if you guys know, but 75 nations, you will be able to speak both languages. That's a lot of nations. That's a lot of people. So yes, I'm proud of learning, proud of actually having to.
Also, English is the universal language.
Yeah,
so
and for business.
And for business. So if you go to, I don't know, Russia or Italy or wherever you go, there will be people that knows English.
Exactly.
It's like a one step. How do you say that?
One step more. One step forward.
One step forward.
Yes, exactly.
If you know English. In our families, in our cases.
Right.
I think in my family, my brother and I were the first to be close to the language because as many of the people here know, my dad comes from a kind of ranch from El Monte, Tamaulipas, and then he came to this city to look for an opportunity, and for that opportunity, he's an engineer. He decided to take a course of English so he could be able to have the position of engineer in a factory. As you know, here in the city, work opportunities are for factories. He learned English, but he's like 27 years old.
Very proud of your father, right? Because having maybe very limited access to the language and then taking the decision of moving to a city where is primarily ruled by companies, like you said. I think we have around 115 companies in the city, and so here they really expect for people that are engineers and have higher positions to know the language if they want to pursue even higher positions, and that is because primarily the companies that we have are foreign companies.
But you know what? My dad never talked to me or to my brother in English. It was like only basic words or words that he saw at the TV when we were practicing with the English world of Disney.
Exactly. In my case, I think I have family. I have two children, and ever since they were born, Itza, day one. I'm talking about day one, literally.
Or were you?
Or when they were even. Yeah, you're right. Even before in the womb, like I spoke to them in English. One of the things that you can for sure know, because it's a real experience, is that you're not going to confuse children if you speak to them in another language.
That's a very important point.
Exactly.
Continue with that.
Yes, because a lot of times people say, oh, no, you know what? You're in Mexico. If you speak to them in English, that, you're going to confuse them and stuff. I remember one experience. I'm just going to tell you one. And this is important. I remember my daughter. She was at the age of 2, I believe, 2. And at that point, she had 2 years of listening to me speak every single day English. I call her mommy. I said, Mommy, go get me that pink chair that's right in front of you. And she knew what going was. She could see my finger pointing at an object, but she didn't know at the moment what a pink chair was. So I remember she headed towards the direction that I was pointing to really fast, like she knew she was doing. And then when she got to the point where the chair was in front of her, she didn't know what to do anymore. And I remember to this day that she was just spinning around, like thinking, what am I going to do next? And my wife, I remember she's saying, tell her in Spanish. And I said, no, look, I'm going to show you. So I went over to her, I grabbed the pink chair, and I said, Mommy, this is a pink chair.
Okay.
And ever since, the next day I told her, go get the pink chair. She knew what a pink chair was, and she brought it back to me.
Do you think, or here you can share with the audience your experience, that if you know English and if you speak in English to your children, they could have that ability stronger?
Right. Yeah, definitely. 100%. If you know English, and many people know basic English because they have had it in schools. That basic English is enough alone to start teaching kids those basic words. If you make them familiarized with that, with the sound, with the pronunciation, with the words, they're going to have less of a struggle eventually when they go to school. Okay. They're going to be in one step forward in school because Daddy says it, Mama says it. So I know what you're talking about, teacher.
That's a kind of suggestion to the audience. To speak to your children in English. I think that one thing worked with me, and I think that I did a lot of muscle, or I don't know, is when I was in one of my jobs, and the people there that we used to teach English speak English between us.
Oh, yeah. That really helps, right?
Yeah, because we were the ones that teach English.
Exactly. I mean, if you're, in this case, Itza and I are English teachers as well. So if you know the language, then speak it. It doesn't matter if you're in Mexico. This is the thing.
We are also in the border.
Exactly. We're in the border, but it doesn't matter if you were like south in Mexico. It doesn't matter. If you know the language, speak it. We just do. It's just like we're doing right now. But it's a way of saying it's okay. It's okay because more people see it, more people are going to want to do the same, and more people are going to be interested in learning the language of business, the language of the world, which is English.
You know what? At the Miss Universe, they are asking for a C1 as a requirement, C1 level in English as a requirement for being there in the competition or to be closer to the crown. But let's talk about something else, Mister. Did you have culture shocks when you used to study at the United States?
Yes, a good point. I did. I had a cultural shock when I experienced my first year of being in the U.S. And like I said, I was back and forth. But like when I was a child, you don't really notice that because you're a child. You know, you get immersed in it, in the language and in any situation. But when I came back to Mexico and I did my middle school and then I headed back to high school, that's when the cultural shock started to feel the highest.
Okay.
And at that time, I remember one experience where I'm gonna tell you really quick what happened. One of the moments what I experienced that was here in Mexico. We had at that time, and maybe you can figure out my age. We had Adal Ramones. And Adal Ramones was the thing for me at that moment when I was in middle school, and because he created monologues, and this was his hit in his show. So when I headed back to high school, I decided to take one of those monologues and translate it to English, and then presented it to a friend of mine at that time, my first year. And we were soccer buddies, basically. We played soccer together. So I read the monologue to him, thinking that it was going to be funny, but it turned out it wasn't. And that's when I noticed that jokes in Spanish are not the same jokes in English, and vice versa. You need to adapt them.
So that's why you need to get involved in the culture so you can understand the context and understand also the jokes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You learn the language, you learn the culture.
But for example, Sergio, we have talked about our education, but what about the question that people always asks, what's English for in real life? I remember that some months ago, I went to a party with the Miss Universe, Arbany Gabriel, and I was like, thanks God I know English, because here, well, there are no subtitles, there are no translators. I had that amazing opportunity, and as I have say in many other platforms, communication gets hard when you don't know the same language. So I think that the English that I know helped me a lot to be there and to communicating with the Miss Universe and the people that is around her. So in your case, you were telling me some minutes ago that you work as a translator.
Right. Yeah. English is important, not because we say it, but because the world knows about it. And all technology, all cutting edge experiments, and also as well old bestsellers, books, in all sense, they're in English. The research is in English. So if you want to become ahead of your game, you need to know the language. And if you want to communicate, in many instances, you also need to speak the language, because the people that come to this country not knowing Spanish, you have to speak to them in English. Now, for your point, why is it important? Because of that. That is the real reason why English is important. Opens doors.
It opens doors. You know, I also have another experience when I used to work in, let's call it government. I remember there was a program we used to bring people from Russia and Ukraine and some parts of the United States, but they only knew two languages, Russian and the language that they speak in Ukraine, that I think it's like the same, Ukraine. There in the department, we were only like 3 people that knew English. And it's thing of very fast to the things that you listen from the people, from those foreign people, and then you think you translate it in your mind to say it in Spanish to the people that they don't know English.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. In my case, I was an interpreter at the hospitals, and in the ER department. And so sadly, people that came over to the ER department. Can you imagine the ER? It's like the emergency. You need to be attended. You need to be treated immediately because you're in pain, you're crying, whatever reason is. But sadly, they had to wait 25 minutes for me to arrive.
Really? Because you were the only translator there?
Because I was the only interpreter at the moment. They had to wait 25 minutes for me to arrive, to be with them, with the family, interpreting exactly what the family's illness or pain was to the doctor, because the doctor otherwise couldn't help them. And
because
so,
the doctor used to speak only English.
Because the doctor only spoke English. Exactly. And they since they have many other patients to take care of, and they have very little time, because it's ER again.
Yeah.
They cannot take the time to figure out what they really were saying. So they would call me, I would arrive, and obviously families were, in pain, and I had to deal with tranquilizing, keeping the family calm, and explain to the doctor what was going on. But on top of that, Itza, there was something else that the audience might want to know, is we also have our beliefs.
Okay.
In Mexico. We have our beliefs. Like, for example, mal de ojo. We have...
religion?
Even religions, right? There's beliefs. We are a country that believes in so many different things. And depending on the region of where you grow up, the religion, the family, they bring those beliefs to the countries that they're in. I remember one family was like, it's because me hicieron el mal de ojo.
Oh.
And that's why I'm here at the ER.
There's no translation for that, right?
And no, there's not a translation for that exactly. But you had to explain to the doctor that this is a cultural belief that made them feel like that. And so the doctor could then make the best decision as to what to do.
For example, how did you explain that to the doctor? Oh, mal de ojo is when someone looks at you and...
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a very good point. As an interpreter, you cannot speak anything else but what the patient is saying or the doctor is saying. Basically, the patient talks, you talk. The doctor talks, you talk. If the patient is mad, you need to be mad when you speak. If the doctor is upset or confused, you need to appear confused in your tone. So when they have a mal de ojo explanation, this is when you say, the interpreter needs to pause here to explain something. And that's what I did. I explained to the doctor, the mal de ojo is a cultural belief that families in many regions of Mexico have. And
I believe in mal de ojo.
So some many families do, and that's okay. This is a tradition. The point is, some doctors or many people, they don't know what that is. So you have the job of explaining that.
Do you think that it's something similar at the United States or not? Well, not at the United States, maybe at the American culture from US, Australia, I don't know, maybe the British people or South Africa. Well, the countries that English is like their main language.
I think every country has their own beliefs, whether cultural, religion, they all have their own beliefs. Some of them are different, obviously, because they're from that region alone, but they all do. It all depends on what that is and who...
Or the family they grew.
Or the families, exactly.
Now that you are talking about the beliefs, it's like, well, me as Mexican person and teacher, I have been in a situation, well, in many situations, when I was a child, some relatives told me that Halloween was from the devil. Well, that's a point of view. Remember, these are points of view. Don't take it personal. Yes. But they no, Halloween is from the devil. Yeah. And then I get involved in American culture, and we also live on the border. And I was like, no, Halloween is a tradition from the United States that comes from Great Britain. I don't know if that's correct, but they get dressed because spirits and something like that.
Yeah, I heard that too, Itza.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not the only one. So I heard that too. I remember even worse, my mother would say, those games that you're playing are not Christian enough, she would say, because we were Christians at the moment when I was a kid. So she was very she was very into that for some point, and I understand some. It's beliefs, whether it's true, whether it's not, it just beliefs, and they all respect it.
When I got more involved in American culture as a teacher, well, not only as a teacher, also as a student, when I was in sixth grade from elementary school here in Mexico. Well, I think it's like the same. It's like seventh grade there in the United States.
Sixth grade? Yeah, sixth,
Similar.
7, 8 is middle school over there.
Yeah. There, I realized that there were more celebrations, like Patrick's Day, that you need to wear something green. If not, you are going to have bad luck or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if you know more about this celebration or the knowledge that you have about Patrick's Day.
Yeah, well, the U.S., it's a country of many different cultures.
Like us.
Yeah, like us. And they have many different cultures. They have many different people from all over the world. It's a big country. And so in order to understand a little bit of each, they have these different celebrations like St. Patrick's, which I think they...
Thanksgiving.
St. Patrick's. They have Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is a celebration for giving thanks.
Yeah, giving thanks. That's
Giving thanks.
basically
But we as Mexicans, apparently, we give thanks every day that we return to our house. It's like, oh, thanks God for another day. Thanks for my job. Thanks for health. Thanks for all that kind of thing, all that kind of things.
Right.
But in the United States, they meet, they get together in a big table with lots of food, and that day is specifically for that.
Right, and even companies in the U.S.
Really?
Companies
I
in the
remember.
U.S.
Companies in the U.S., I mean, American companies that
Yeah.
are here in Mexico.
Yes, and I was gonna say it's a tradition as well that they give you free turkeys. So many companies in the U.S. exactly knowing that they have Thanksgiving coming up in a week or so. They give their staff free turkeys so they could take home and celebrate with their families.
Have you ever been in that situation?
Would they give me free turkeys?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah, they give
I
me free
think
turkey, yeah.
here in Mexico, only pizza. For extra work hours. Just kidding. Well, because foreign people will know that.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Yeah. Here it's we celebrate Thanksgiving in Mexico because, like you said, still it's an act of giving thanks for whatever we have.
Or you know what? Christmas is different. I know that we have this image of a guy called Santa Claus that comes from another
North Pole.
Another what?
The North Pole.
The North Pole. He comes, sí, pero según era San Nicolás, ¿no? Kinda.
Yes.
But I don't know how to say that in English.
San Nicholas.
Santa Claus apparently was created by a brand of soda, apparently. And I am like, well, that's not Christmas. Oh, well, of course, I like gifts. I think all the people likes gifts. But from my point of view, Christmas, and not only in Mexico, in countries from this religion, Christmas is to remember when Jesus was born and that his mom and his dad, Mary and Joseph were knocking doors for looking for shelter and make Mary give birth.
Right.
And here in Mexico, we turn on a candle and we get together and we knock doors and we sing something.
Christmas carols.
Asking for shelter, kinda. And then we break a piñata with lots of candies. And the piñata has 7 cones and each one represents, I don't know what's the word for that thing that will send you to the hell. Are 7.
Like, I don't know, 7 apocalyptic. No.
It's like when you're very lazy.
7 sins?
Yeah, that's a word.
Sins? Yeah, 7 sins.
When you're very lazy, when you eat a lot.
Glutamine.
Yeah, those
7
words.
sins, yes.
Yeah, and that's the meaning of Christmas in Mexico. For example, when we always represent them like a play, call it Pastorela, because are the guys, the pastores,
Right.
the guys that
Pastors.
takes chips to the. They are going to go to see Jesus. That's something that helped me a lot with my education. Was that when I studied in my schools, in private schools, but let's remember that I'm the result of the effort, because what my dad used to earn, everything, all the money was for the school where I studied, and my brother too.
Nice.
No new car, no vacations. That's why now I travel a lot, I think. Well, I do my effort for traveling a lot. But in the schools that I studied, we used to do plays about the culture, for example, of Thanksgiving in the United States, and Christmas in Mexico, sometimes in United States. For example, I remember that I participated in how the Grinch stole Christmas.
How the Grinch stole Christmas. Huh? That's very
Yeah,
interesting.
I was just one dancer more.
But you have to know about
Yeah,
the story.
it's like general culture to know that the Dr. Seuss books, I
Dr. Seuss
think,
books,
in
yeah.
English. We also mentioned it one time that the Diary of a Wimpy Kid book
Yes.
helped me a lot. I found it at the flea market for 5 pesos. That it's like,
It's very cheap. The Diary of the Wimpy
how you
Kid,
can say
yeah.
5 pesos in dollars, like 10 cents? No, less.
5 pesos, yeah, it's probably like $0.25, rightly? Maybe?
I think, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, 1/4.
25 cents.
25 cents. That the book was in English, but maybe the people that were selling them, they don't know English, but
Yeah.
they only wanted something.
Yeah, some money out of it. Exactly. Yes.
5 pesos,
Yeah,
25.
I mean, there's a lot of good books, a lot of that connects with traditions of what we're talking about. Yeah, it's Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and we can go at them with.
For example,
more.
bingo, it's not the same.
Bingo.
Bingo. Here in Mexico, we have like 53 figures in some cards, and we have like this paper with 16 squares in different order, and then a person is saying, oh, I don't know, the frog. That's one of the figures.
Oh, I see.
The frog.
Yes.
And in America,
It's bingo.
it's bingo with
Yeah.
numbers and
With numbers, yes.
Letters.
bingo.
with numbers and letters.
Exactly, numbers and letters. Yes.
But well,
Makes
in
it a
Spanish,
little
in Spanish we say loteria.
Right.
But you know what? I have listened like 3 different ways of calling this.
Yeah.
I remember I went to a nursery when there's all the old people,
Yeah, nursing home.
nursing home, and it was called chalupa.
Chalupa.
Chalupa. And other time, it wasn't at the hotel, at the Mazatlan hotel here in Mexico, but they received foreign people.
Uh-huh.
Mexican bingo.
Mexican bingo.
Mexican bingo.
You know, my uncle used to call it la loqueria because everybody gets crazy. Nobody wants to lose money, so yeah.
Well, that's a good point.
That's another one. Yes.
Yeah, but you know, I think that it helped a lot to be here on the border. So we could go to places in the United States, and I think that also is a privilege.
Yeah, it is a privilege.
For example, how do you work with that with your kids? Do you take them to the United States?
Yeah, well, usually my wife is the one that has the most time. So sometimes when she gets invited, she's the one that goes at this point. I
Okay.
still need to get passports and visas for my kids. They don't have them yet.
Okay, but they will.
So they will eventually. And when that happens, then they're probably going to be enjoying that too.
And they are going to be prepared because they already have an interesting and very good English level.
Exactly.
So that's what I think.
Yeah, no, they do. They
Because
do.
there's people that lives there or that comes and goes and they don't know English.
They don't know English. And there's a lot of people like that. In fact,
I'm Latina and I know English.
Exactly.
Thing.
This is the thing. This is the thing that we want to tell you guys, that you can live anywhere in the world and learn English. It's just a matter of what you decide to do. And Itza, myself, we are just one of those examples that we have taken different paths, but eventually it's the same outcome. We can communicate.
Okay. So would you like to add something else?
Yeah, I would like to add that, you can also follow me in my website, on Facebook page.
Here will appear.
It will appear here. Teachers Leaders. And that's where you can find more about me. I teach English as well online. So you don't need to go anywhere. You can just get on your computer and learn English. That easy.
I think, you know what, maybe I will do a kind of TikTok short or a short video, and with that information, only you. And there will be all the information.
That would be great. Yeah. And Itza and I, we're going to be working on more of these for you guys. So you can learn more about how English is here in Mexico. It's not the same, but we want the same results.
But we have a lot of experience for sharing with the people. Even the people that knows Spanish and they know English, they could know what we're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
So thanks, Sergio, for this episode. I'm so glad that we have started this project. And we'll see you in another episode. Subscribe. And thanks for watching. I have always dreamed with saying that.
Thanks for watching. Yeah. Thank you, Itza.
Bye.
Bye.